what's that Bama guy's name?
Live now, Nancy.
Listen, I'm not been since the bad
I don't
boy
like Nick
era. That
Saban
was
for what he
more
did to MSU. I thought
They ruined Michigan
I call him
for
Nick
me.
Satan.
Bad boys, the Chris Webber
I do.
class. Was on.
I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We have a couple things to get to before we jump into our regular meeting. Can I please have a motion for an election of officers?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education elect the following people as officers for 2024. Nancy Beal, President, Sarah Ballinger, Vice President, Chris Lewis, Treasurer, and Amanda Beverelli, Secretary.
Second?
So first by Dave, second by Chris. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next appointment of board committees, I think I sent everybody a text. We're gonna kind of just stay where we are, and move forward. A lot of work to be done, so we're gonna just keep it as we are. Can I have a motion for identification of official signatures, please?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education authorize Adam Spina, Sarah Tynan, and Christopher Lewis as the official signatures with all banks of deposits for 2024.
Second?
So first by Sarah, second by Chris. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, motion carries. May I please have a motion for the appointment of Open Meeting Act designee?
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education appoint the Superintendent of Schools as the Open Meetings Act designee.
Second?
So first by Deb, second by Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So moving into our citizen comments, do we have anybody that would like to address the board? All right, moving on, celebrations. Adam.
Good evening and Happy New Year. It's going to be a busy one for us, but all good things. I want to start off by just extending, on behalf of myself and the administrative team, a sincere thank you to the board for your continued leadership and guidance of the district. We have a small token of thanks for some coffee and a Be Nice mug in keeping with our goals and our focus on student and staff mental health, and some other little knickknacks. So we appreciate your holding us accountable, but also giving us the space to lead and make decisions on your behalf and to try to implement your vision and goals for the school district. It's not easy to be in the positions you're in, and so we're thankful for your willingness to do that and advocating for not only the school district, but most importantly our students and keeping them at the center of all your decisions and what you spend your time thinking about. So thank you, and we look forward to a very successful year ahead with your leadership. Moving on to celebrations, a couple website stories. First, our Model UN team from the high school won the Best Delegation Award at the Great Lakes Invitational in Kalamazoo back in December. So congratulations to all those students. We also had a number of individuals that received recognitions at that event. And Ms. O'Rourke and Ms. Wade, their faculty advisors, great job as always. I mentioned this at our last meeting, but I was able to get the story posted on the website regarding our first robotics teams, year 2 for the elementary, which expanded this year to 2 teams, and kind of going backtracking and having the first year of in-person competition for our middle school team. Both had great experiences and have some momentum now to continue that on into future years. Not on the website, but some other notes to point out. I'd like to thank Terry Van Horn, one of our bus drivers, for kind of taking the lead on the submission of the transportation department into the light parade float competition. His float won. And he even enlisted the help of some of the students, elementary students that ride his bus, and were kind of part of the float he designed. And so, really cool addition, and congratulations and thank you to him for representing our district, as well as the other activities and groups from our school districts, including Be Nice, who were present for that event. The PALS program, which is Peer Assistance Leadership and Services at our middle and high school, always do a lot of wonderful events for the community, fellow students and staff throughout the year. I just want to note in particular during the holiday season, they're especially active in terms of leading the food drives for the food bank at both buildings. At the high school, they also go over to the senior center and volunteer their time there and do some activities with the members of the senior center. And so it's a program that is doing great things all year round, but in particular around the holidays, really does a great job of reaching back out to the community and being of service to them. So thank you to all the students and staff involved with that. I should also point out the elementary contributes with their 12 days of giving. We are teaching that community service idea down there as well. A thank you to Amanda Galidas who led our CPR training for our custodial and maintenance teams over winter break. So we have those folks that have all been trained up or retrained, recertified, and then she'll be moving on to recertify our bus drivers here later this month. So again, just because we're on break doesn't mean there's not things happening, and really appreciate her coming back and leading that program. Moving over to facilities, we had new carpet installed at the high school office, replacing what I believe is the original carpet from that building. At least if it's not original, it's pretty close to it because it was very old. So that has now been replaced, and then we'll move on to phase 2, which is replacing the pink furniture cabinets that are, I gotta imagine, also original and are falling apart. And hopefully by the end of the summer, we're gonna have a much nicer presentation of that office as folks come in and prospective families come in, and that'll be the last of the offices to have been renovated. So looking forward to completing that project. That'll come to the board here probably in the next month or two as we get the estimates, because the cabinets aren't cheap. But hopefully once they're done, that's a 20, 30-year investment that will pay itself back over time. Also over winter break, we had a couple events our athletic program led. The first was a Be Nice basketball game, again partnering with Hazlitt, fellow Be Nice school, and the girls and boys varsity teams participated in that, had the Be Nice messaging and shooting shirts and the whole thing. So that's become a nice tradition, and we have a captive audience that really allows us to get the word out and provide resources, or at least create points of contact for folks in the community to talk to if they need those resources. Also, just last week, in partnership with the local insurance agency, athletic department had a coaches versus cancer game versus Chelsea, which was very well attended considering it was over winter break, and a way of continuing to recognize and honor those who are fighting cancer and providing that support to them. Both teams wore custom jerseys recognizing members of their family or other folks in the community that have fought or are fighting cancer, and so it was a very nice event, and much appreciated to all those who were involved in organizing it. Those are celebrations for this evening. Any questions you might have?
All right, moving on. No education update, superintendent's report.
All right, so mostly upcoming meetings, and there are several. For the members of the bond steering committee, the board representatives of that committee, that meeting is on the 16th at 6 p.m. In the elementary campus library. On the 17th, we can still anticipate having a special meeting. I'll be able to give you more updates on that by the end of the week. And on the 29th January is the board goals workshop. As we know, the board goals are up and ready for renewal, and so that'll be facilitated by MASB here in the boardroom, and that'll be a great opportunity to have some conversation and discussion about where the district is heading and what the board's goals are for the district over the next 3 years. Finally, for the Finance and Facilities Committee, now that that committee was reestablished this evening, The week of the 29th of January, we would like to schedule a meeting. I know it's short notice, but we had to wait for the committee to get finalized tonight. So probably the 30th, 31st, or 1st, that last week of the month, to have the Finance Committee meet to preview some of the finance information that'll be coming in February. So I'll get more information out to you this week about that, but just look for that invite if you're on that committee. That is my report for this evening. If there's any questions.
Do you have any questions for Adam? All right, board committee reports, we just have ISOA.
We met beginning of December, December 6th, and Brad Banasic from MASB was very generous with his time. He came in and his presentation was over an hour on specific Public Employees Relations Act. Some representatives from other districts were not as informed as others on this, and so it was really nice that he, again, was very generous with his time, answered all the questions that people had, and as you know, that goes into effect February 13th of 2024. The full presentation I sent to Adam, and I believe, if I recall, he sent that out to all board members so that you could look it over, and if you have any questions, obviously contact Adam or myself, but Adam probably first point of contact. And then Jason Melma who's the ISD superintendent, gave us an update from their November superintendent's meeting around safety and security, data presentations, and early college presentation. And of course, we had district updates, and we did not have a meeting this January. However, we will meet back on February 7th. Oh, and Jennifer Smith, as you all know, very informative when she comes to speak with us. So if anybody would like to attend that, there is a virtual option and also an in-person option. We meet in Mason at the Wilson Talent Center, the admin building there. So if you'd like to attend, just let me know.
And what date is that?
Wednesday, February 7th.
And there still is a limit to the number of people that
There
can,
is,
even if
yes.
you're even virtual, just to listen.
Yes, because it's considered a meeting either way, whether it's virtual or in person. So just let me know. And we meet at 8 a.m.
Okay, any other questions for Sarah on ISOA stuff? Okay, moving into discussion items, the Sherwood Road property. Sarah?
Yeah, so we learned in the fall that it's best practice to bring the lease to you annually, even though we don't typically have any changes. However, this year there is a change, so the land was certified organic this summer. So we are going from $250 per acre to $350 per acre, so that changes our annual payment from $24,000 to $33,600. So that's just for your review.
Nice. Any other questions for Sarah on the lease property?
Is there anything within the lease that restricts what he can use so that it stays? Is there anything like stays labeled organic? Like if he used a certain type of pesticide, would we lose that for any length of time? Like I don't know our process of how long it took us to get to organic.
So I believe the organic piece was all his doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It is.
everything he's done on his end, so there's nothing in the lease requiring us, so if he fails to meet that organic requirement, he would be.
Yeah, so he had to, when we put out bids and then chose the gentleman, he asked our last finance person if he go organic, did we have any descriptions? And basically, they have someone that comes out and I believe tests the soil, and then, but it has to be pesticide free, and I don't know if pesticide is the right word, but whatever, he can't spray certain things, and I can believe it was for 3 years, and then they come out and test it again, and then so it was his idea, and then he offered to do $100 more if he was allowed to do that. Any other questions about the property? Okay, then the next is Access Point Hardware, our esteemed IT person.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, good. Good to see everybody. Good to be back from break. So I'm here to recommend that we purchase some replacement equipment for our current equipment that has recently reached end of life. So I'd like for us to purchase new Aruba access points to replace all of the Aruba access points in district that are currently not supported. The total dollar amount for replacing them is listed on the memo there, $75,714. I did apply for E-rate grant funding for this purchase. So part of my recommendation is that we only move forward with making the purchase if it is approved for E-rate grant funding. So the way the E-rate grant process works is essentially you start the grant application and then you put out a request for proposal where you spell out what you want. You get offers, which I've already done all that stuff. There was a competitive bid that went out for offers, and all the offers were reviewed, and the winner was selected based on a evaluation criteria that's required for the E-rate grant process. And so part of that process is getting board approval. If it does receive board approval, then I'll go back to USAC and say that it was approved by the board, and then they'll have to review everything that's been done so far, and then ultimately say whether or not they approve our grant application for funding. If it does get approved, the expected cost for the district after everything is said and done will be reduced by 60% down to about $30,000, and we're expecting to use the sinking fund budget to pay for that, and the project should start this upcoming summer, so after July 1st of 2024.
Do we know when, and it could be in here and I might have just missed it, do we know when they'll let us know if we get that grant?
Yeah, so typically, if we do approve this, then I'll go back to them and say that it was approved, and we have until, I believe it's the end of March, to actually get everything approved by the board and then go back to them and say that it's been approved. But at that point, it's a little bit of a longer wait, just because that's where they ultimately decide whether or not we're getting the money. So that's like the most important part, when they're rewarding the money to all the districts. The sooner we do it, the sooner we'll actually be awarded, if we are awarded. I would want to check what we got last year for the network switches. So this is what we did last year when we replaced our network switches, to give you a better idea of it. I think it was, it was definitely before, or actually, you know what, no, I think it was actually after July 1st, because we had to wait to purchase. So I think it was 3 or 4 months before we actually received a decision on it, I want to say. So it does take a while. So the sooner we get the ball rolling on it, the sooner it can potentially get approved. So.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm assuming that you're coming to us because this is an obvious need and we want to support as much as we can. So if we don't get, assuming that the board approves this and we don't get the funding, do we have a plan B in our sinking fund to support almost $76,000?
Well, the short answer is yes, but it would be an opportunity cost, right? So you just add 60% to that, and then something else would have to go.
Yeah.
So, it's better to get the E-rate price.
Right.
Of
Yeah.
course, but some things are
And
out
is
of
it-
our control.
Yeah,
so-
Yeah.
Is it guaranteed? Is it?
No, it's not guaranteed, but it's not like, if something's wrong, they'll tell you, hey, fix this thing that's wrong with your application. Like, unless you did something majorly wrong, like you didn't go to the school board for approval, or something that's just like, or the dollar amount's like way off, or, I have every reason to believe, as long as we're actually following the process, that it should get approved. And even if, for whatever reason, they decide we've done something wrong or they don't want to approve us, typically they'll give you some sort of chance to revise your application so that way it can be approved.
Nice.
And of course, worst case scenario, we could always reapply next year because the program exists to supply libraries and school districts with funds to purchase internet connectivity inside and outside their premises. So, you know, if for whatever reason we had to get that point, we could potentially do it next year, but it'd be better to do that sooner than later because these are end of life at this point, although recently, so at some point they're gonna stop working and we're gonna have a hard time fixing them and getting everything up and working again, so.
So is the ask then, a ask of up to the 70+ thousand, understanding that it may be less? Is that what the overarching would be? Or overarching ask of the board is?
Yeah, so the 75,000, that's actually the bid that we received for the one that was selected. And we would, no matter what, even if the board does approve it, we'll have to pay that. It's just, if it gets approved for E-rate grant funding, USAC will reimburse us for the difference.
It would be a reimbursement after the fact.
Exactly, so it's not like if it does get approved, we only pay 30,000, it's, we'll pay the full amount no matter what, but then we'll get reimbursed from the
Okay.
USAC.
Okay,
So,
got it.
Any other
How
questions?
often do we replace these access points? And
yeah, so HP, Aruba, so typically they say that they'll support their equipment 5 years after end of sale. And typically end of sale is, it could be 1 year, it could be 3 years after they start selling a product. So typically you're looking at between like 6, maybe 8 years on average for support for the equipment. But it just depends on, you know, which manufacturer you go with and what product you ultimately get. But I would expect that if we replace these, they should last us for another 7 or so years.
we gotta start increasing the amount of these grants if we're gonna replace every 7 years.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like when I first got on the board, it was our roofs. Like, we were
Yes.
constantly fixing the roof. It's
At
like,
least we get 25 years out of those. I feel these are just
yeah, so
silly.
now it's technology
Okay.
stuff. So, any other questions?
No.
All right. Are we comfortable to move this to vote next in February?
Yes.
Yep, all right. We'll move this on our February agenda. Again, if you have any questions, I would reach out to James to get those answered. All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much. The next discussion item is our housing, I don't know what to say, our housing issue, concern. So Deb and Sarah went to the city and the township and read our letters. So in a minute, I'm gonna have them give a little highlight of how well that went. But I've talked to several people about this, or talking about this, and there's, you know, my husband, or let me back up. So I was working with someone from the ISD, I was working with the superintendent from the ISD to get us some data, because when I first started on this board, we were told that 50% of our families, or the people that live within our geographic school district area did not have students that attended our schools. And I just assumed that it continued that way. And with talking somewhat from someone to the ISD, they said, oh my gosh, no, it's way lower than that. You're dropping about 30% every 10 years, or over the last 10 years. So he got back with me with the actual hard fact data, which is they have a vendor, so this is like a third-party company that has no skin in the game. They are not from around here, and they looked at each district and what they have. Right now in our district, 72.2% of our families or people who live here do not have children that attend our schools. So that means 27.8% of the people that live within our school district have kids that attend our schools. And I had been talking to my husband about that, and he's like, that just does not seem possible. And as we were driving into our sub, I think I've said this before, I'm like, well, they don't have kids in our school. They don't have kids, I don't have kids in the school anymore. And it's like this population, late 40s, early 50s, kids are off to college, or kids have graduated. We don't have kids in school, not ready to retire, not ready to sell our house. And just sitting here and looking at the people in our audience, I can go, they don't have kids, they don't have kids, they don't have kids. I mean, it is a problem. It needs to be addressed, and I think it is. I've heard before people say it's like this dirty little secret. You go to our parades, you go to the football games, you go to basketball games. I mean, people are out, kids are out, and it doesn't look like we're hurting. But I think they don't understand that we have to work really, really hard to get our school of choice numbers up and keep our families. And so since I had conversations with different people, since the letter was read, I think this is going to be a lot of educating the people in this community. I have heard numerous times, we're not developers, we're not builders, and I come back and say that's not what we're asking from you. But you do hold the policies and the rules and legal things of what can be built and what can't be built and how difficult it is. I think it's also a question that needs to be investigated. Why are developers and builders building literally all around us, yet they're skipping Williamston? And the lots that have been for sale, that developers had looked at, they've been for sale for 27 years, 28 years, as long as I've been here. And they're not developing them. So I do think this is going to be a start of really educating these individuals. I went back and watched the city council meeting. I've also heard about the township meeting, and just from listening to what was said at those meetings, there is a lot of misinformation. And I understand that Adam has had numerous conversations about this, and the information that he's giving them just isn't sinking in, because that's not what they're believing. So I have the data. They can come with their data, but I will make sure that our housing committee has that data, because I do think this is going to be, the start of this is just a learning piece. So now I'm going to give Deb and Sarah the floor to talk about those meetings and what was stated.
Go ahead.
Well, I was the lucky one that got appointed to read the letter. And it actually took 5 minutes to read the whole thing, all 3 pages. But I felt like city council, they kind of were acting like they were offended. And they all spoke out about, they wanted to tell us what they've already done. Okay, fine. But they weren't really accusatory or mean. But when I got to the Williamstown Township, it was a different story. It was finger pointing at me. It was, well, let me say, it was strong enough that Sarah and I said, we're going to stay for the whole meeting because we are going to have a rebuttal here. So we did. And I've talked to some of those council members, or not council, township board members since. And there's one for sure, and I think another one that will definitely come to the meeting and come to help us, because we both stressed at both meetings that we want to have a meeting in January. We want representatives from all the townships to come and the city so we can work together. We want this to be a springboard for action. And honestly, I think this letter is a springboard. And I think people are waking up slowly, but I think it'll come. But it's going to take a lot of education for sure.
Yeah, they both had it on for discussion. Both meetings had it up for discussion. So that's when Deb read the letter, and then at the city council meeting, I got up because it was taking a turn for this kind of isn't our issue. We've done things, and it is kind of what it is type of response. So I just got up and I reiterated, this letter was not to be offensive. This letter was merely stating some facts, but we hope, again, repeating what Deb said, that we hope that this can be a partnership, working together to come up with solutions and brainstorming, getting everyone together in one spot so that we can hear city perspective, township perspective, and our perspective. And I'm not sure where we left off. But the township meeting, yes, it seemed that some members took it very personally. And I heard that, well, this letter sounds like you're trying to make it so that I have to sell my house, that I'm not welcome here. And I said, that's not it at all. I waited until the end of the meeting, and whether you do public comment again, and I walked up and I said, again, this was not to offend anyone. This is merely to get everyone together, and hopefully we can work through some of these misconceptions that we have, because one shared a very personal story that they moved here, they didn't have kids, and then they did have kids and raised their kids here, graduated here, and they still want to stay here. And I said, we're not trying to push you out. We are just hoping that other families from other communities can also have that same experience that you had by coming here, living here, and having their students come through the district. So it's good that it sounds like we're gonna have some representation. We'll see. I'm hopeful, but that's kind of where we left things.
Well, and I also want to say, I feel like Dave and I don't want to speak for you, so jump in if you'd like. I feel like kind of went through this letter, like line by line with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it wasn't, offensive, and was it just data, was it just, speaking points. So, I don't have, I guess I'm not apologizing for the letter, and I'm not apologizing that they took it personally. I think, taking it personally with the thought of, or one of the responses that you got about, well, you just want me to move out of my house, I guess my rebuttal to that, or my thought is, then you didn't do your homework, or you didn't, check out the people that are on this school board, because almost half of us don't have kids in this district. And, so if I'm asking you to move, that means I guess I have to move, and, Deb and Julie and all of us have to move. So that's not the point, and I do feel like this is where it is gonna be educational, like, we keep hearing these things, well, but you get school of choice kids, so just take more of school of choice. Well, they don't have a real understanding of how school of choice works. In school of choice, like, that could go away. Fowlerville is building, I had heard this, Adam had also shared with me, Fowlerville's building like crazy. So what about those families, Weberville, Perry, they can choose to go to Williamston, or they can choose to go to Fowlerville. And the more Fowlerville grows, the more programs, the more options, families might start choosing to go there. So there's it is a gamble that we have to play every single year. And, but again, I think you really have to look at that almost 30% of the people who live here, almost 30% of them have kids that go to our school. 70% do not have kids in this school. That is a huge number that can continue to grow. And I mean, even people just sitting on this board right now, they have, kids that are in high school. In a couple years, they're gonna be gone. And you're kind of at that same age range, not ready to necessarily sell your house and move or retire or whatever you wanna do. So, I think this is just the beginning, and we're gonna have to do a lot of educating before we move anywhere else.
I have to ask, was there actual finger pointing?
Yes.
I find that really, really offensive. I'm sorry you were
And I
treated
think
that
at
way.
least two of those trustees said, we don't believe that all of you board members signed that letter.
Yeah, we can't believe that we signed
Wow.
off on
So, and I do have to say, I feel like Sarah and Deb are being very gracious at this moment. If you would
Yes.
have talked to them after that meeting or a day after that meeting, that, like, they're being very respectful right now and their feelings that were there. And then also remember, Julie went into a meeting, and I have heard this several times, and I do believe, again, this is this misinformation, that I think they all believe that this letter came from the fact that Julie went to a township city meeting, and everybody at that meeting, or that's kind of Well, but that's what everybody kind of says, well, we did kind of beat up on Julie. Okay, well, that's not the point for the letter.
Yeah.
Like, the letter was gonna be sent whether Julie went to that meeting or not, and Adam's been talking to you about this for the last 5-6 years, however long that's been, it's been a while. So, this board, we had to get through different stages. This is now, like, the housing thing, we have to start taking up, because we're losing students. We're not losing students. Students aren't graduating and their parents aren't moving. And I think that's an attribute, that is a great testament to our school and to our community, but it doesn't help our
It's not
school to
sustainable.
keep moving.
I think a lot of it does have to do with education, but we also have to think that some of it is political in its nature, especially when you look at Williamston Township. I mean, the trustee there is farmland preservation. She's on the national board, that's her committee. Solar is a farmland preservation. There's a law right now. I mean, that's where I think a lot of where they want their open space and land to go. So I personally believe they do make it harder for builders to want to purchase land in their area and to build with the regulations they have, because that is where they want to go in that. You might have education in the city where they're more maybe interested, what can we do? I'm not sure if the township is going to be as open, because I do think that they have a planning commission that's coming up in 2 years where they have a new plan that's gonna come out, and I think that we're gonna see a lot of that push into the solar, which takes up a lot of acreage. And so if anything, it's educating more the people that live in there to say, do you want to put your schools at risk of not being able to sustain itself by using the resources that we have in this manner without having a balance? I mean, I'm all for having that, but there just has to be a balance.
Well, and I also had someone, I was talking to a developer who had developed Plymouth Landing, and said, hey, would you come back? And he was kind of like, oh, I can't afford to unless the city guarantees, and this is true of Plymouth Landing, I hear this all the time. Our roads, like, you go in and the roads are one distance, and then you keep going, they get a little wider, and then you keep going, they get a little narrower. Like, our roads are pretty narrow, wide. And that's because depending on when there was a vote and a new city council came in, then they changed the rules. And this developer said, I can't afford to do that. Like, if I go in to develop something, I have projections and know how much it's gonna be and to do this, and, so the city's kind of gotta give to, because there are a lot of lots in the city that people are jumping over and not building on. So it's just gonna take some perseverance and some education and some working together and figuring out where we are and what we can do.
I did have a member of the planning commission approach me and say, oh, are you asking if we were planning to send a letter to them? Or if we would be interested in having communication lines open to that committee. So I'm just
I think Deb brought that up too,
throwing that out there.
right? Having someone from the planning commission come.
Well, just other representatives,
Yeah.
realtors,
Different
developers, yeah.
Yeah.
But we did hear some fairly good news. The township said they have approved apartment complex to go in, I'm not sure where, but, not all the families want apartments, and then I heard from a really good source that there are 2 developments likely to go through, and those are one right across from the middle school here, 100 housing
I thought that was
subdivision,
only-
and the other one off of where Church becomes Raleigh there, about next to Red Cedar, a type housing development in there. They both look like they're gonna go through. It's a drop in the bucket, but it's a start.
The last I heard, this one had been sold by the
Yeah.
contractor to one person.
And he does
And
not
that
want to
person-
develop it for one person when he found out how much it cost to take sewer and water all the way back there. Now,
So-
he's changed.
And that's what I was saying, I mean, like, in a lot of areas, they will split some of the cost of the development because we get the tax-based revenue from there on out, where here it's just very exclusive to that very upfront heavy.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting since I had conversations with, certain individuals and then conversations from, they have conversations with, it just kind of is all wound together. And again, I haven't lived here forever. I've been here 28 years, and some of these, I keep here, like finishing out the high school or doing all that. I mean, I heard that 27 years ago.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like,
Yeah, that's why I think that this meeting, getting
Will help
everyone
and-
together can,
Right.
you know, dissolve some of those rumors or, you know,
Right,
make
see
these
what we
more
can do.
factual.
okay, next, leave of absence request for Maggie,
Michelle McGee.
Nikki McGee.
Nikki McGee.
McGee, that's what I was thinking, Nikki. Okay, Adam, do you have
Yeah,
anything?
Nikki is going to be pursuing her teaching certificate, needs to complete her student teaching next fall. One, which clearly we support. One caveat to the letter, she is asking for her last day to be December 16th of 2024, not the 23rd as indicated in her letter. That'll be amended in the motion for next month. But otherwise, this is a goal of hers professionally, and we're in support of her being able to pursue that. There is a clause regarding her being able to pay for her medical benefits during her leave. That is a unique situation, has not come up before, and so my memo support just has that one caveat that pending a letter of agreement between the association and the board, which at this point we're feeling is likely to occur, but Sarah and I will stay on that one, get that to you when ready.
And would there be a substitute then, and so students would still have access to the services of the library?
Yeah, the buildings will come out with a coverage plan, so access is maintained.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, we can move that for a vote in February. Next, we have a closed session. Can I please have a motion to go into closed session?
Move that we go into closed session?
Second?
Okay, first by Dave, second by Chris. Amanda, will you take us through roll call?
Amanda, yes. Chris?
Yes?
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy.
Yes.
Motion to go into closed session passes unanimously.
All right.
What?
10?
I think that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can I please have a motion to come back in? out of closed
Motion to
session?
come out of closed session?
Second? Deb.
Okay, out of closed session, so I have a first by Sarah, and I heard Deb first. so
Yep.
maybe-
Deb, you got it.
Second by Deb. Can you take us through roll call, Amanda, please?
Amanda, yes. Chris?
Yes?
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, can I please have a motion for the approval of our calendar, or our minutes?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on December 4th, 2023.
Second?
Second, I heard Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We do not have any roll call votes. We do have some separate action items. So can I please have a motion to approve the changes of mid-year hire, tenure, and probation status?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education grant tenure to Megan Carr and Molly Stump. Also grant the following increases in probationary status to Barb Zaremski, year 4 to 5, Carrie Razvian, year 3 to 4, Madeline Stewart, year 2 to 3, and Connor Longendijk, year 1 to 2.
Second?
Sorry, just so first by Chris, second by Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Can I please have a motion for the intro of a small unarmed aircraft system?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the addition of the following class to the Williamston High School curriculum, Intro to Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems. This course will be offered starting in fall semester 2024.
Second.
Okay, so first by Deb, second by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Can I please have a motion for the United Nations trip?
Move the Williamston Board of Education approve the following out-of-state trip, the North American Invitational Model United Nations in Washington DC, February 15th through 19th, 2024.
Second?
Second.
I think, is that Deb? So first by Dave, second by Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I please have a motion for our cybersecurity enhancement?
Make a motion.
Motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the purchase of managed detection and response services and endpoint detection and response software. The initial purchase will not exceed $55,000 and will not increase at a rate of more than 5% each subsequent year.
Second.
Was that Amanda? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I please have a motion for the Troon Policy Service?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education purchase the Truon Policy Service at a cost of $7,050 for the first year and $2,750 per year thereafter for an annual policy updates.
Second?
First by Sarah, second by Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can I please have a motion for the revision or to add, revise, or remove these policies?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education add the following board policies: 5197 probation and non-renewal, professional staff effective July 1st, 2024. 5420 performance-based compensation, professional staff. 5425 performance-based compensation for administrators and supervisors, and 5525 performance evaluation administration.
The second.
Okay, so first by Julie, second by Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I have a policy for our board policies to revise?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education revise the following board policies: 5195, discipline professional staff; 5510, reduction in force and recall of teachers and non-teaching professionals, effective July 1st, 2024. 5512, placement teachers and non-teaching professionals, effective July 1st, 2024. 5520, performance evaluation, teacher and non-teaching professionals, effective July 1st, 2024. 5540, termination, professional staff. 5830, suspension and dismissal of non-certified staff. 6001, union activity and representation, and 6050, third-party contracting.
Second.
So first by Chris, second by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I please have the motion to remove these board policies?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education remove the following board policies: 5510R, regulations, reduction and recall of teachers, and 5512R, regulations, teacher placement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Dave, sorry.
That's fine.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next, the visit of our board goals, just because we're reviewing the board goals, I will, the board goal meeting on the 29th starts at 6, correct? Again, I'm calling different places about dinner. I think we'll start dinner at 5:30. I'll have dinner here at 5:30. Is that okay? Good, have dinner here at 5:30?
Yeah, that'll work.
So I don't know what that's gonna look like yet, but I am trying to look at menus to have options, and I will send them to you, and you choose, and I will make sure that dinner's here at 5:30. And yeah, I'll make sure dinner's here at 5:30 on the 29th. Next, correspondence. We have correspondence of a retirement, and the correspondence of the letter of support for the Memorial Park Trail. That has already been sent. The retirement, Phil Brilliantes, he's been talking about this forever. He's, I'm sure, had a countdown for the last, I don't even know, 5 years, 10 years since he started teaching in his room, I'm sure. But in all fairness, he's been a good guy. He came down to the, he taught in the middle school, came down to the elementary, taught for a while, moved back to the middle school, and, is really connected with students. And again, I'm excited. He's not gonna be sitting around. He's got lots of activities and travel and things that he does, but it is another loss to our district.
Yeah, I mean, for those that know him, Phil is a great guy. He's got a ton of interests outside of teaching, and I think his retirement is going to be one to watch and maybe enjoy, through some of his experiences, because I'm sure he's got a lot of great stuff lined up. One thing I'll say, as someone who spends a lot of time looking at data and outcomes, his growth data, and in most years his achievement data, which, again, that's to the side, growth is really what we're focusing on, is impressive, to say the least. And when you look at kind of the trend, pretty much any year, if you think back to like what the difference in we see in kids in terms of positive growth and achievement rates in 6th grade when he gets them, it is tremendous. And I think in a district full of phenomenal educators, I think Phil is sometimes flown under the radar, but I would, I think it's got to be said, like the results he gets in math from those middle school kids is tremendous. And, skilled math educators like him are far and few between. So we will miss him, and a fine educator, and look forward to honoring him a little more later this year at our retiree event. So well deserved.
Yeah, he will be missed. He's a good guy. At this point, citizen comments. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? No. Okay. Next, board member requests and reports.
I just want to say that sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I went and saw Elf, and I think that Adam undersold his role in Elf a little bit. He's like, I'm just out there, I got like 2 lines, and my 9-year-old was sitting next to me, and oh my gosh, is that Dr. Spina? What? And cracking up the whole time.
It was.
We do have a music director
Yes.
in the audience here, so
It was
I
an
have to
amazing
say-
You might have that
thing.
here.
So those that missed it,
Except,
It was highly coachable.
except I
I-
didn't see
him at the curtain call, nor Dr. Bell.
I know, they
No,
did
their
have that
call is
curtain
the
call
very beginning.
in the
They're,
middle,
like,
yeah.
They took their bow and they
They did.
exited gracefully, stage left.
I went the first night. The kids did an amazing job.
Oh,
The music,
as always,
everything
yes.
is amazing. I do have to say, it was really fun to see our staff,
Yeah.
and the staff that participated. I give them, I give them lots of props and lots of kudos, because if you would have asked, I mean, we all know, well, we don't all know, but, you know, if I was going to pick some individuals who are going to play Santa to be able to do that role, it was not necessarily the people that were on that stage. So
And the fact that they said yes.
the fact that they said yes, the fact that they did it, the fact that they were there it was a commitment, and it was really fun to see. And I went the first opening night, and they got the loudest
Yes.
whistles and hoo calling and woo-hoo and of the night. Kind of stole the show from the kids, but it was really fun to see.
Yeah,
They
and
did a great
those,
job.
those students, wow, they were just, the whole play was phenomenal. Whether it was music, acting, the stage, I mean,
The sets,
it was
everything looked great.
really well done. So those that missed it, too bad for you, because it was really, really awesome.
It was cute, and the story was a little different than
Yeah.
like
the
Elf. I
movie.
love Elf. Elf
Yeah.
starts like, I have that on all the time, but
Yeah.
Uh,
And then, one more thing, sorry. I was waiting to see if Dave would talk about this with the foundation. Pancakes with Santa, huge success. I'm sure that we'll hear numbers as they have their next meeting and stuff, but that's always an amazing time for everyone. The line for the face painting was, I mean, almost out the door. And again, Angie Herrick, who helps out with that, with all the artwork all over I mean, there were stations, there was cooking station, there was drawing station. I mean, the amount of things for people to do, for kids to do, not only just like pancakes and, see Santa, but it was multi-dimensional. So it was really, really well done. So kudos to the foundation and those that were involved in that. It was awesome.
it was nice. And it is also really nice, the amount of artwork, like Angie,
Yes.
like the amount of artwork that the kids do. It does seem really simple, but I would be like, I would never think of that.
Yeah, and I went
Just amazing.
towards the end of it, and I was like, oh, I bet there's not gonna be, no, there was still things left to do, there were still things to eat, they just organized it so well, and I think this is the first year back from COVID, maybe the second year, the second year back from COVID, and it just, even when I got there towards the end, there were still so many people, and when I talked to Norm Jolin, who's the president of, the foundation, he goes, yeah, it's just been like this the whole time. There were so many at the beginning. There just wasn't a lull in anything. It was very consistent, and a lot of people attended. So congratulations to them.
It was, and I was just gonna also add, there's, as a parent of a child who likes the arts or was involved in the arts, it is, there's always, it's a whirlwind. Like, you never have like a low until those, even during breaks, you just don't have a low. And the amount of talent and what our teachers have had these kids rise to, like, from my daughter, she's been out of school for a long time, it's just remarkable, like, to see the growth in the whole productions and everything that's done. But it is a kudos to all of our, music directors, to our drama teachers, to our band teachers, because the amount of, what do I want to say, like the band performances, the choir performances, they do them in the fall, and then they do them again in the wintertime, and then we have the play. There's just so much that these kids are doing, and yet then keeping their grades up and having finals, and so,
The coordination.
Kudos
that
to
goes
all
in-
of them.
Yeah, the coordination
was-
that goes into everything is just.
yeah, pretty astounding. So, anything else for board reports and requests? All right, I will entertain a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
First by Chris, second by Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, have a wonderful